when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages and sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hey! We did it! We're here! We're dancing! We're reading! Welcome, book clubbers, to our final episode about Memories of Ice. We're here at the final chapter and the epilogue. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky. Good morning, Lana.
Good morning. We're here. We're bringing the energy. A risky first syllable for the state of both your and my lung capacity right now. But
Yes.
spooky games all night. Beautiful books
maybe
all
not
morning.
the wisest decision. You and I, we were playing video games together last night, and you still hadn't done your reading. I was still drying my tears from the reading I had done. We will get to that. This last final chapter of the third novel of the Malazan Book of the Fallen is very large, tons of scenes. The pace picks up. We're going to do our best to get through all of it. It's going to be a jam-packed episode, wrapping up this third novel. What an experience reading it.
Mm-hmm.
But we like to start with a non-spoiler section. If you're not caught all the way up with the book that we're reading, you can still hang out, have some fun with us. We're not going to spend too much time on the non-spoiler section this week because there's so much to get to with this chapter. But I had a funny thing I wanted to relate to you. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if there are topics that you would like to suggest for our non-spoiler section, please send them to us. We want to know what you'd like to talk about. And if you'd like to weigh in on previous topics, we'd love to hear that as well. You can do so in our Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord. There's a book club section there. Or you can send us an email at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. That's dlcfeedback@gmail.com. But Lana, this is something that I've done as a reader for many years, mostly because I cannot trust myself. And I'm wondering if you do anything similar. When I am reading a particularly impactful, climactic, revelatory moment, when something is about to, I can tell we're getting to, there's something's going to happen, and my eye can see lower on the page, there's like,
exciting
gonna be something. I will put my hand up to block the lower part of the page so my cheating eyes won't shoot down and read the revelation early.
That's really funny. I so you notice that it's happening. You even see the revelation. Your brain's like, that's the interesting part. And you're like,
I can tell there's a sentence
slow it
right there.
down.
Like there's a sentence that's going to be like the big thing, or like we're getting right to the end of a chapter, like a big chapter, or right even to the end of the book. I can tell, and my eye wants to go. Huh, I want to look down there. I want to look. I want to see it. I want to see what's there. I want to go, and I have to literally barrier it with my hand.
Oh, that's just so funny. So I definitely do the same thing, but well, no, I do the same thing in that my eyes want to flick down to the lower part of the page. But oftentimes, or at least in books that I am not going to have to talk to somebody else about, the next day.
Yeah.
I have often found that I'm like, I get it. And then I actually more exciting the book is, I almost feel like I'm picking up the pace.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like sometimes in the most exciting moments, it feels more like I'm skimming because my brain's like, okay, little conversation. This is the exciting part. And I jump forward and I jump forward and I jump forward. And I think I probably miss little moments here and there. And occasionally I found myself like, oh, I read too fast. I have to go back and read a page because I missed a paragraph because I was so excited about the next thing. I just got there. And I let myself jump forward often enough. For this book, I I didn't, and obviously we'll talk about it in a bit. But man, I felt that this whole chapter, I feel like leading up to chapter 25 from chapter 24 was like, I felt like the whole chapter would have to get covered with my hand because it felt like every page, and we're switching characters so much. There's like something exciting constantly. It was like doing the jumping for me. And so I didn't, but I felt like I shredded through this last chapter, man.
It does feel like you start, if you've ever run down a hill.
Yes, that's exactly
you get
what
the
I was
first
picturing.
2 steps. You're like, I'm running down a hill. I'm doing fine. And then you're like, oh no, here we go. Whoa, we got to jump over a large, you start tripping down the hill.
I'm like leaping. I'm like, suddenly there's like many, many feet racing underneath me of the earth. And I could go hurtling to my doom, but usually I come out okay. But I love that you actually cover it up. And I love you savor enjoyment so palpably, and anybody who listens to the DLC video game show loving things the way that you enjoy things. I'm so enamored with, because you enjoy them so thoroughly, and I'm like, I love this, and then it's over and I'm like, okay, what's this? I feel like a feral animal compared to like your like ability to calm down and enjoy things.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate you saying it. I do feel like there's like the sentences leading up to that big last line, or those last couple of sentences. I feel like I need the author wrote those. I need to
the gravitas.
I can't skip over that.
Yeah,
I gotta walk down this mountain slowly and methodically.
Yeah,
that's why it takes me twice as long to read everything that you. Anyway, all right, so. Let's get into it. Spoilers starting now for chapter 25, the final chapter of the 3rd book in the Tales of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. It is, it's like there are so many scenes, as you said. What Erikson does here, I think, to generate that pace, that momentum, that frenzied build to to our climactic moments, is, as you said, jumping around a lot. There's so many scenes, very short perspective changes, this, and it just really feels like it's this boulder rolling down a hill, and
every single one like a delicious bite.
Yeah. Crazy stuff happens. So we're still in the heat of the battle as chapter 25 starts. We jump away and check in on Cole and Murillo quickly, but right back into it where, because of what Itkovian has done, the Talana Moss are gone from Silver Fox. She realizes the Talan have abandoned her. She's now feeling like she's been betrayed by everybody.
It's almost like when you deny an entire people any amount of
peace,
reprieve from the thousands of years of agony after death that they have experienced. They don't want to hang out with you anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but we find out she had some schemes, some machinations. It was just like, she's like,
tell people, why is it gotta be a secret, girl?
Maybe no isn't what you want to say. Maybe later, maybe not yet. Maybe
today's not good for me. Let's check the calendar. I think a couple months from now.
Let's schedule it in. Just schedule it in.
I just need something to look forward to.
Yeah. No, she's a woman of few words, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Then we check back in with the maybe, who it feels like this thing wants to burst out of her ribs. Something is imprisoned in these ribs. She senses a beast wants to break out. And short version of the story, which there's lots more here, but you were right about the maybe and Talk being the two wolf lovers, the gods embedded in them, yearning to be reunited. Pretty awesome how this all comes apart. It comes to apart. That's a Freudian slip. Bursting open. But no, it comes together is really what I meant to say. Itkovian is still kneeling. He's trying to deal with the memories of the painful memories of the Imass. And we get this like parade of little snippets that Erikson gives us of sort of examples of the kinds of lives that these Imass have lived. I thought that was such an interesting way of doing it. Like we're kind of seeing these almost this montage of all these different moments that are infusing into Itkovian in that moment.
I thought it was so interesting because, you know, it was teed up earlier in the book with Talk hanging out with Tool being like, yeah, but you don't like feel any emotions, right? And he's like, that's supposedly true. And like this idea, they talk about it, oh, these emotionless Imass, they like say it over and over and over again. And so it's very interesting that it almost seems like they were emotionless, but they held on to these memories. And it's like their emotions were like bundled in those little snippets of their existence that sort of explode out.
Yeah.
I liked the sort of setup through the whole book up till this moment and this big release. It's very cool.
Yeah, and we get sort of named Imass, and we get these like specific little tidbits, these snippets of I found very illustrative, very, very moving, just one or two sentences, but you kind of get a sense of the kinds of lives they've led, the dramas that they've experienced, and all of these memories, these memories of ice, which, very quickly become, manifest, the maybe is in this dreamscape, this world that Krupp is trying to bring her into, this new manifestation of a place. And in that place, literal ice falls from the sky. These memories of ice are actual physical things that start pelting her like hail.
That's the other thing I loved. There's the words memories of ice appear in this book so many times leading up to now. It's in the very first, I think it's like within the first 3 pages, and it's talking about like, memories of the Jaghut magic, the Antos Falak, which of course we'll get to later on in the book, later on in the single chapter that we're in. I was going to say in a later chapter, in a later scene in the longest chapter. And then this, which is, speaking more to like the history of like this, the key battle of like the Talan and the Jaghut, but then also this physical like memories pelting down as an ice storm in this new realm. I love how many times it's swirled in, and every single time I read those words, I'm like, is this what that means? Is this what it means? Right. Is this the deeper meaning? And then having that question so many times, it's like, it's all of them,
right?
But also this climactic moment, a very, just poetic, felt great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not uncommon to have the title of a novel be the central metaphor in the novel, and frequently you'll find it mean, one or two different things. It's amazing how many facets of this concept are illustrated in the book. That this memories of ice is really used in so many different ways, and it really is a striking metaphor that he manages to get so much out of. Yeah. And then this is kind of where we find out that Silver Fox had a plan, was crafting this dream world as a refuge for her mother, as a place where she could be eternally young and happy and without any pain. And she laments here about how it was ruined by mortals. It was ruined. Good intentions ruined her plans. People who, Murillo and Cole stealing her away, and Itkovian taking the pain of the Imass, like all these mortals who just wanted to help, like ruining her immortal plans.
There was like a couple pages in here where I was like, Well, I like it because she's like in my brain, like I know that she's special and magical, but in my brain she still seemed mortal to me.
Yeah.
So hearing her be like these mortals, like that's like the clearest night chill twist of godly ego.
Yeah.
And the audaciousness of mortals and has been come up a couple times throughout as well, their ability to be like brash and to like sort of tell you like it is and not like beat around the bush or not necessarily treat you with like a reverence or whatever. And I felt like it's like your plans weren't ruined by mortals. They were ruined by your ego in not feeling like you had to share anything because you're so special. You're four special people in one special person. Like there's like a couple pages where I was like, okay, girl, you could have just literally told any single person and this would have been fine. So shit up.
Right. Yeah, but also I think there's such a beauty in all of this. And I mean, we're going to get to the Seer and all that stuff, but it's just over and over and over again. The refrain is that there is sort of, for all of the horrible things that happens, there's pain and almost good intention at the heart of all of it. It's I can't think of another fantasy novel where such atrocity is represented, and yet there's understanding and compassion and insight into the reason behind all of it. And you kind of go like, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel bad for you, Silver Fox. I feel bad for you, maybe.
I don't.
You don't?
I feel bad for the maybe. I don't feel bad for Silver Fox.
All right.
I get that. I can't.
I mean, you're
I
right.
can't take the ego, baby. I can't take the ego.
Yeah. Well, that's the I think the defining characteristic of the gods in the Malazan world.
Yes. Full of themselves.
Yes. All right, and then we check in at the keep where Talk is wrestling with Tog, who's trying to burst out of his ribs, and the Seer is there with the matron. And he pulls out a finist.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, remind me the rules of the finist.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, a finist. Oh, yeah, that's like that magical MacGuffin that could do some stuff.
Definitely know what that is. I definitely know the rules of what a finist does. I can't quite recall. But the Seer is essentially, it seems, draining the power of the matron and putting it in the finist, right? He's putting it in this egg-like thing. He's draining all the matron's power and kind of, destroying the matron essentially. And in that moment, Tool breaks in and saves Talk, because that was the whole point. Tool is like slashing through the whole keep, like looking, where's my bro? Where's my bro?
I need my
you
brother.
See my bro? I'm looking for my bro.
Yeah. If you see my bro, you're dead. You're dead.
That's right. Yeah. And this amazing moment where he calls him his brother and Talk is like, he called me brother. He's like, oh, can't even talk because he has no tongue. He's like, bleh. Yeah. But still, it's nice.
Yeah. It's like the first time that I felt like Talk had like a mind that wasn't just like pain be here, pain bad. In quite a while. So
the battle is still raging, however, and we have this amazing moment where the Kachin Shamali are chasing Picker's team, and Hedge blows himself up as a sapper. It kind of does this self-sacrifice moment to destroy some of the Kachin Shamali. Amazing. We're seeing basically the end of the Bridgeburners as each of them as they are being whittled down, more and more dying, sacrificing themselves.
Basically,
then
every single one of them having like a heroic end.
Incredible. Yes. We see even ones we've never, like Buckland, who just showed up in the last chapter or so.
I know.
Like pulls Blend, like saves Blend, and you're like, oh, Buckland, I don't even know you, but you're awesome.
What a bro.
What a bro. And then Lady Envy shows up. I gotta say, Lady Envy throughout this whole last chapter is a delight. An absolute delight.
A great reprieve. And like the conclusion of her kind of journey also just like, mwah. Love it. Love it.
So
Agreed.
It's so funny. She's like, hey, has anybody seen anybody? And they're like, we're in the middle of a war. What? She's like, yeah, I know, but like, I'm looking for my friends, and you would recognize them because they have masks. And did they come through here? And they're like, the horror. She's like, do you guys need healing?
The scene where she's like, they're like, she's like, okay, well, come with me, and then I'll heal you if you help. And they're like, okay. And then they get sort of like, ambushed, surrounded. They're fighting on all sides. And her reaction isn't like, oh, in our way, I'll vaporize them instantaneously. She's so used to people doing something for her, and especially having two people who are like expert warriors. She just goes, oh, is this going to take very long?
Yeah.
It's like, and then the response from Picker is like, no, I know it's not.
Well,
but like,
her response is, it's not going to take long because we're going to get killed.
We'll be killed instantaneously. We've been fighting for so long. Half of us are already bleeding out. We're exhausted. And then Lady Envy's like, great. This is actually looking bad. And like, oh, that's what they meant. Okay, I'll kill them. And just like, she could have.
She like snaps her fingers and all the Seer Domin
She could have done anything. And they're like, well, you could have said something. Like, how am I supposed to know even that you're going to die? It's like,
it's so great.
This lady.
It's so great. She makes that comment of like, well, if Picker hadn't been so rude, I would have healed you guys like way earlier.
Yeah.
She's so great. So funny. But it is quite bad. We get that scene where Dujek is pulling the wounded soldier. He doesn't even realize the guy doesn't have a bottom half of the body. And then he's like, oh, I guess I no need to pull this dead person.
Yeah.
Crazy. We find out the final fate of Twist, which was another heroic death. More stuff with Gruntle and Taishrin. They're all fighting. And then this amazing thing, which was so vivid in my imagination. And I just feel like I could see the visual effect of Gruntle and Gruntle's legion, the legion of Trake, forming that like human tiger beast that is fighting, but and it looks like a tiger, but when it's slashed or attacked by any of the Kachin Shamali, instead of pieces of it coming off, it's people.
Yeah.
People being swiped away. So it's slowly being, it's like a Katamari Damacy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or a worse reference, Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Yeah, it's like a a Marvel movie, a nanobot creature,
yes,
made of millions of or something like from the Matrix. Anyway, it's such a cool image of all these humans that, because of their devotion and faith to Gruntle and to Gruntle's god, can become this thing that is greater than the sum of their parts. But as it's being attacked and swiped and slashed, the people are being ripped off and bodies are flying out of it.
Do you think
what
that
an
they
amazing image.
Go around the camp and they're like, oh yeah, I was in Oblique today? Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a different experience from when it was a quad, but it wasn't a bad experience.
I was the scruffy underbelly is what I was.
Ooh, tender.
It's really tender down there. You don't get a lot of action, but when you lay down in the grass, it feels lovely. I'm really hoping next week to be an eyebrow. But yeah, what an awesome idea. But even that, right? Even that very potent thing is being laid waste to. It's like they're still losing. They're losing. Corlat and her brother are, fighting as dragons. Taishran is blasting his golden magic on everything. Corlat's
and getting shredded for it.
Yeah.
Because people are like, dang, this is magic. And they look over and they're like, oh, Taishran, he getting messed up. Okay, just checking.
Yeah. And Corlat's like, isn't that the same golden magic that messed up my hometown?
Isn't that what destroyed so many people? And I loved seeing that perspective of her being like, this is what was there outside Pale that day.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe we were even trying to face that. It just sort of shows the power that Taishran is capable of. Very cool.
Yeah. And we get that awesome perspective of Caladan Brood standing there, seeing this all going bad, and seeing the Talanamas still kneeling down, seeing Itkovian motionless. He's like, all right, I guess I got to use the hammer. It's time to bring the hammer down. And he's about to do it, and he freezes, which was, as I was reading it, was like one of the coolest moments to end a perspective. I was like, just so the momentum, the pace, the kineticism of it. Amazing.
I was surprised. Well, I mean, I like that Caladan Brood, he holds the weight of not just the physically what that hammer must weigh if it breaks somebody else's wrist instantaneously, but like the weight of that responsibility. And like, I was like, as a person who's like rooting for, the good guys in this, as we can perceive them in this book, as we know the information. I'm not going to say anybody's good or bad now, but we're like rooting for the people who seem to be the good guys that we've been following for so long. That, we saw Brood use the hammer just when he was annoyed at Krupp, and it was devastating.
Yeah.
And so internally, I'm kind of like, bro, you don't have to like use the hammer. You can like use it a little, right? You proved that you can do it a little without killing Burn. So why don't you just go in there and use it a little? Seems like they could use all the help they can get. Why are you standing up there like, seems bad down there? Should I kill everyone? Like,
just a soupçon of hammer.
Just
a sprinkling of hammer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a pinch.
Just a hint of hammer. You don't want to overwhelm with hammer. You don't want it to be like, this is too much hammer.
This is a global destruction of hammer.
I realize just right now that he did the inverse of the MC hammer, because MC hammer is stop, hammer time, and he did hammer time, stop. It was
so silly, but
so dumb.
So while I like as a cheerleader, I'm like, use it.
Yeah,
it's just not that much. I do like that the pressure of that in like an actual like battle situation where you're fighting against the thing that Burn wanted you to kill her for.
Yeah,
I love that he has this. Like the tension that must have, like the weight of responsibility in those moments of like just trying to like make sure which way the tide is turning,
right? So
that you can do the right thing. I like that was like tough for him though. As a fan, I was like, do anything, bro.
It's going bad here. It's going bad.
Get in there, dude.
Get in there, buddy. Then we have this amazing scene where we get a very noble death for Ditorian, which is another character that I didn't have a lot of connection to until this moment. But this amazing fight with Ditorian, where she's takes on a Seer Domin, slices off her shoulder, rips out all the muscle there. She goes flying into the wall face first. Like, it was just very visceral and powerful. Ansie's dying, like all of them. We just seeing the obliteration of the Bridgeburners.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful stuff. Cool stuff, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
We check back in on Tool carrying Talk's body, and he comes around the corner. He's like, saving my bro. And he comes around the corner, and there's Mock, the Segula, and he's like, oh, man. I guess we got to do this now?
I love that is like the moment that, like, you know, Lady Envy is like, Mock, you can be awake now because obviously things are intense. And he's like, I gotta find Tool. I gotta prove myself.
Yeah.
And it's like so annoying, like the maximum, most inconvenient time to try and do this. Yeah. And especially because Tool's like, I will lose to you.
Yeah.
It's like,
he knows he's gonna lose. He's like, hey, just do me a favor. Take Talk's body when we're done. Yeah. It's such an awesome moment. But I love it. It's very much that, you know, we've used the metaphor before about Lady Envy being the mom and them being the two fighting siblings, you know, and the two brothers are like, just stop fighting. All right, you go to your room. I'm separating you two. This feels like, you know, you finally you're all dressed up. You're going out to dinner, you know, you're finally all good. And mom's like, okay, I'm going inside for the reservation. You two be good. Like, we're doing something completely different, has nothing to do with. And the other one's like, I kept this mud in my pocket the whole day.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing, their priority is, we are going to figure this out. Which one of us is better? It doesn't matter that the world is crumbling around our feet, you know?
Yeah.
So cool. So we have, while that's happening, they're fighting so fast, crazy, you know, intense, world's best fighters. And meanwhile, Talk is like, there's a wolf inside me. And he sees this bronze-capped beam. And he's like, I can use that to get the wolf out of me. And he, you know, climbs up and like impales himself on the beam. Get out, wolf! Get out! That's my Talk impression.
That scene was so. I could like feel how laborious that was for him. Every time he touched something, the description of like, oh, his skin is all pustuled, his legs are basically like stumps from the swelling and breaking and so malformed. Yeah. But like how powerful it is just to like, he called me his brother. That gives me the strength to like stand up and finally impale myself on a spike. Like just this like end to the suffering that he chooses. There's like it's so powerful in that release, and the tension between him slowly just getting his body off of the ground and then flipping to like the maybes chapters in between. Yeah. And Krupp being like, come on, lady, come on, you got it. I just need you to do the thing that you are here to do. Please do it. Yeah. It felt very climactic. I was just
and as he impales himself, right, Tog howls, which we realize is what stopped Caladan Brood from using the hammer, because he hears the wolf howl. Yes. As the two wolf gods are like, girl, boy, I feel you. You know?
I love like literally running through the grass, like into the meadows, into like as the equivalent of each other's arms. Yeah. The freedom that they immediately experience.
Yeah.
Baby, it's been thousands of years.
I've been waiting for you, girl.
Aru.
Yeah. But that's not even, you know, as all this is happening, howling, wolves, ecstasy, all this. And what happens out in the water? Moonspawn's back.
Hey.
The rise of Moonspawn, which I immediately had the image in my head of the end of the Abyss. Spoilers for the end of the Abyss, I guess. But you remember that scene at the end of the Abyss where that massive alien ship comes out of the water? Just like seeing the saltwater cascade off this thing that's made of like volcanic rock, like coming up. It's just epic.
Oh, so epic. And also, I was like, how to get it down there?
Well, yeah, I was wondering if he like sank it and then like just like submarined it
it's like
through
slowly over. I imagine, or my only thought was maybe they were showing, that body that was filled with water. Was it in the last chapter they found somebody who was like, the imploded one?
The Tistiadur, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I thought
I didn't even put that together. Interesting.
I don't think the Tistiadur was like on Moonspawn. I mean, maybe.
No.
But I thought that maybe they were showing like, oh, you can like put something under the water. But then I guess everybody would have instantly died. But maybe that's like what they're implying. Right? This is the part that I wanted to check with you on. Is the implication is that in order to sink Moonspawn, all of the Tistiendi died for that.
No, I don't think they died. I think they destroy Moonspawn.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
My understanding, because what happens eventually is the Tistiendi get a new home in Black Coral.
Yes. Right.
So basically, they're destroying their home. They're destroying Moonspawn.
They're all fine. It's just that Moonspawn's dying.
That was my reading of it. We could be corrected, but my reading is that the individual Tistiendi were not killed in this gambit, but their home was utterly destroyed, and so they had no home, which is why they fully unveil Corald Galen, the Darkness Warren. They fully unveil it, encompassing all of Coral in darkness forevermore. It's like a magical, preternatural darkness. And it becomes their new home. It's like, oh, we love it here now. We're all about
there's none
darkness.
of that nasty sunshine.
Yeah.
And interesting, like, is so revealing your Warren. That's like making it permanent.
I'm not clear exactly what that means.
I was clear that Corald
unveiling
Galen
it fully.
Yes, unveiling it fully. I did understand that Corald Galen is there just to stay. To stay.
Ah!
Hey. But I wasn't sure.
And he told us about it in the book.
But I wasn't sure. Does that mean like you can't use it anymore? Does that mean you can use it all the time because it's open? Is there not going to be like a bunch of blood coming out of it?
My understanding was that it meant it's sort of like it took a part of the mortal realm and like fused it with the Tistiendi realm. And so it became like this place that is of two realms. It's almost like a bridge between the realms now.
Yeah.
Bridge is probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean? It's like it is
a space between them, a blending.
Exists in the mortal plane now.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting.
But an amazing moment, because there's all of this talk about, is Anamanda Ray dead? Where's Moonspawn? Where's the Tistiendi? What's going on? Why we haven't heard from him? Why haven't we seen him? And meanwhile, he's like, I'm under the water. Here I come. Don't worry about me. And I just get this amazing, the description of him like standing on the edge of this huge volcanic rock, like, oh, I'm ramming you.
Yeah.
We've reached ramming speed. Here we come. And it's like, have you ever seen those videos? There's like TikTok videos that someone standing on the shore will take of somebody losing control of a massive cruise ship, and it's going really slow. It appears, but it's still completely out of control. It's like coming into the dock. And like, oh, it's not going to stop. It's
just slowly crushes everything in its path. Yeah. The weight of it, just the pure mass. Yeah. Big out of control cruise ship energy.
Totally. But my sense of it is like, it's not a freight train hitting Coral. It's this like slow moving, it's just this crunching, crashing slow motion wreck.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We have the death of Trots, who's like sliced all up. Mallet it can't heal everybody. Ansi dies. Lady Envy is like, Mallet, stop using your Warren. It's cool. I'll heal. Whoa! There's Corald Ghislaine. Everybody go. Everybody out. Everybody go.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. Then we check back in on the fight between Tool and Mock. Tool is losing. Mock is about to win, and at the last second, Panther attack.
Yeah. There's like a bunch of things that come up with Kilva?
Kalava.
Yeah. Yes, Kalava in these last couple chapters that I was very excited to see her return.
Yes.
And in such a spectacular fashion. I feel like in general, she's only put off the inevitable. I'm like, all right, book 4. When is Tool Mock fight round 2? But instantaneously, her like disappointment in Tool being like, you're the first sword, brother. This dude's mortal. What? And he's like, yeah. But he's the third.
Yeah. He's not even
Does
the
that
best
mean
one.
anything to you?
Yeah.
I loved that the first thing she comes in and
trying my best. God.
Yeah, it's like very sibling energy in like a serious space.
Yeah, he literally tells her to like go to the abyss. Oh,
yeah,
go to the abyss, sis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy that Mock didn't have to ceremoniously kill Tool. Glad that guy's still around.
I agree. I mean, we'll get to it, but the resolution of Tool and Kalava is chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kalava is like, we're gonna find Silver Fox. Lana's Tog shows up. It's like, I'm looking for Silver Fox. We gotta find that Silver Fox. There's some everybody want all the Telanomas want to find Silver Fox. And they're like, we're gonna murder the Penny and Seer. Don't worry, we're gonna go find the Penny and Seer. We're gonna murder the Penny and Seer. And so they set off to try to do that. Then we have Lady Envy. We're back with Lady Envy and Picker and all that. She's like, oh, they're gonna all try to go kill the Penny and Seer. We got to do that first. Everybody wants to go kill the Penny and Seer.
Everyone wants to put their flag in the ground in his body.
They all want revenge. Obviously, the Seer is the most evil being ever. The Telanomas know it is a Jagged. They exist only to murder them. Lady Envy wants revenge because of what it did to her favorite boy toy. They all are out to get the Seer.
If there's one thing I know, it's that the Seer is 100% evil,
irredeemable in every way. If there's one thing I've learned from reading tons of fantasy novels, the giant bad guy needs some punishment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But as Kalava's panther form arrives on the roof to kill the Seer, we have Quick Ben and Talamandus, who have a plan with Perrin, of course.
Yeah.
He's like, Talamandus, now's the time. He's like,
I think Perrin is like, I forget which one sparks it, but they're like, we gotta do it. And one of them is like, are you sure that's what we gotta do?
Yeah.
So I forget if Perrin's leading or Quick Ben's leading it, but Quick Ben definitely blasts Kalava's panther form, just knocks her away and hurts her and stuns her just long enough to be like, Talamandus, do your thing, baby.
Yeah.
And they like dive tackle the Seer through their warren, and then Kalava, gets to rights just fast enough to follow them through, and everybody else is stuck away.
Well, yeah, perfectly said. But even right after that moment, the matron, the moonspawn like crushes that part of the building. It lowers lowers a man's height in a second, and it's like there's like me skunk. It just crushes the matron's body on the roof and destroys the entire roof.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It took a Kirby form, press down B, smash attack.
Yeah.
Very effective.
Yeah. Oh man, so much stuff here. So we check in with Gruntle, we check in with Corlat, and the Mott Irregulars even show up, and they walk up to Brood and they're like, so we murdered all the mages. Was that what you wanted? And Brood's like, I don't know. I didn't even think you were here, dude. Yeah.
How did you? I thought you, but then you were, yeah. They're like little turn, and then I don't know exactly which chapter. Somebody's like, oh, the Mott Irregulars? You mean all those warlocks?
Yeah.
These like backwoods warlocks walking around with wood chips in their hair and like absolute destruction in their powers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaky dudes.
Amazing. And another thing, to mention is that cool imagery of Moonspawn, not just like, slow motion destroying the keep in Coral, like ramming it through, but also it's still cascading water over everything. So it's like kind of creating rain. Mm-hmm. Such an amazing visual in my head of just how this battlefield is completely transformed by the emergence of Moonspawn and Animander Rake and his plan. And I love, there's a moment where, I don't know if it happened already, but there's a moment where somebody's like, I really expected Animander Rake to be here personally and not do
just
this
the rocks,
much less subtle thing that he's doing.
One of the things I kept thinking about, like, oh yeah, they said, oh, not quite a subtle entrance. I like laughed very hard at that line.
Yeah.
But they're like, Moonspawn's coming out.
Yeah.
And it's clearly is like the big city. Everybody's like, and there it was above us, clearly on its last legs. And I'm like, get out from under it.
Yeah.
Because I kept being like, man, Rake, what if you like did that earlier and you just dropped the thing on top of all of Coral?
Yeah.
And then Moonspawn wouldn't be flying around anymore. But obviously, that was never your plan anyway. But then you would kill everybody.
Right. No armies have to go in.
We don't have to do this whole thing. If you just little more punctual break would be nice.
Yeah.
So we didn't lose literally the whole army. But thanks for the help.
So we're back in the dreamscape. We realize that Silver Fox has made a deal with Hood, saying she was going to deliver all of the souls of the Talana Moss to Hood's gate. And in exchange, Hood is like, you can set up special, cool little dream world. I'll help you that your mom can live in forever. And it's cool and it's awesome. It's rad. But what is actually happening is that the two wolf gods are now sort of existing in that space. They are reconstituting the beast thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of live in that cool space, but also the Talana Moss's memories are in that space. So, a little more than what Silver Fox anticipated.
Yeah. A little more than she bargained for, but also she, fled the battlefield in such, she's like, everything's ruined. And it's like, why is it ruined? Like, just tell anybody anything. And because the souls were like redeemed by Itkovian and all the Talana were like, oh, we can go a little longer. All of them got like a second wind in a way.
Yeah.
She thought she failed her side of the deal. so that Hood wasn't going to uphold what he had.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's so upset. She's like, I made this whole thing for my mom, and now it's not going to be allowed to happen anymore because I botched my end of it.
Yeah, but Krupp is like, no, I think Hood's a solid dude. He may be got to death, but solid. He's solid. He'll keep his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we check back in with Itkovian, who is embracing all the pain of the Talana, and we get this awesome moment where he sort of reveals his backstory, and I was personally very touched because the name of his hometown, his home city that he grew up in, is my wife's name, Erin.
Yeah.
So that made me very touched.
But also tragic backstory. Man's been dealing with grief his whole life.
Yes.
And the way that he discusses his parents, and like, I never saw my mom smile until the day I left. And at first when I read that sentence, I was like, well, that's unfortunate. And then it's like, oh, because my father, embraced her to assert ownership, and like all that means in that sentence. It's like, oh, she smiled when you left because you were free. We're free. Ugh.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. And like, we have this 1,000-page novel with these grand epic stories, and then he's able to just convey in like a couple of sentences
a lifetime,
these exquisite little short stories as well. It's unbelievable.
And him leaving, seeing that smile from his mom, living like a childhood that must have been so filled with grief, to go into his calling is, being with grief his whole existence. It's just, it's so, what a noble brow.
I mean, the best. We're back with Tool. Tool demands that Silver Fox free the Talon A. Silver Fox is like, cool, what do I do? He's like, you just say they're free. She's like, okay, they're free. It's like, okay, cool, they're all free. She's like, wait, that's it? That's all I had to do? It's like, yeah. Oh, it was super easy. That was soup's easy.
And him and all the other Talana are like, oh, we know.
We literally were asking you for the easiest favor. This wasn't a come help us move situation. And then this amazing moment where Tool like drops his sword, and everybody's like, I don't know what that means, but that's not good for a first sword to drop the sword.
Yeah.
That can't be good. That can't mean a positive thing for him.
That seems like a demotion.
Yeah.
If that's like the first one, at least like have some respect.
Yeah.
Put it in a museum.
And then we have this awesome little almost comedic interlude with Colin Murillo and Cruel, who is like, okay, we need to lay the maybe down, and she will sleep forever, and she's gonna dream, and in her dream is an entire world. And Cole's like, wait a minute, like, is that like Burn? And Murillo's like, what? How many ladies have dream worlds? All the old ladies have dream worlds. What's that about?
I thought
that was very funny.
But like Cole being like Burn, I'm like, is she like the new planet within a planet? Is she a baby planet?
I think so.
Everybody gonna be up in that?
She's a realm now, right? She's a realm that has a throne, has gods, has, the Talana Moss's memories. It has, it's a whole realm.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how that plays in future books. It's very, very cool little, new threads that I'm already ready to sort of pick at.
Yeah. Then we have this. I feel like the chapter is already kicked into high gear, but we just like propel into another plane for me, because all the revelations start happening that pay off the prelude to the novel, which I kind of expected to pay off, but not like this. I did not see this coming at all. I don't know how you feel, but
No, not at all. I mean, the only thing that my brain would have ever thought is when we, met the seer, when Talk sort of sees through the seer for the first time, and I'm like, oh, a Jagdhut again. It's like interesting, like to have these books where they're like they extinct, except for these specific cases where they're definitely not.
right.
I only thought about like the fact that there was more than one in the book, not that they were actually tied together in any other way other than the word of like their species.
I mean, this felt masterful and so satisfying to read. This beautiful payoff of, we know that from the epilogue that it was Kalava, right? Kalava threw the two children into the rent at Morn in an attempt to save them. She does this act of love and compassion that is very unlike her people. And Pran Chol says, "What have you done? This was the worst thing you could have done."
Yeah.
And what we realize is that she has damned this soul to eternal torment for thousands of years. But what blows my mind, and I didn't even put together at the time, is it only needed one soul.
Yeah.
It needed only one soul. So the Kachin Shamali matron was originally the soul that had closed the rent. It replaces that with one of the two kids.
Yeah.
Just the girl. The son is the seer. And of course.
Well, I imagine that because she threw them, because I was going through that too, where I was like, well, she definitely threw them both in.
Right.
But so she throws in the seer, spits out the matron. She throws in the daughter, the sister, and then it spat out the seer on the other side.
Right.
So the one that stayed in was the third one that was cast in, or the second baby that was cast in, which was the sister.
Right.
And the seer was ejected, I guess, somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course is full of pain and grief and anger and, all turns into this horrible thing.
Well, I think becomes like what the one thing I really like that the crippled god sort of mentioned in like the one scene, the one or two scenes where we sort of talk to him directly, is he only brings people on who are damaged.
Right.
So it damaged the seer enough that he could then be brought on and used by the crippled god because he was physically, emotionally crippled.
Right. Scarred, destroyed. Yes. But the compassion that Perrin and Quickbender show in that moment, that, Perrin says, you have to free him. You have to free him. And Kalava's like, no, we have to destroy him. And they offer the seer this opportunity to go to another place where he can live in peace and act against the crippled god. He says, you've only been acting this way because of the influence of the crippled god. Can't you feel that now? And that line he says, this other place, is it far?
Ugh, my little heart shattered.
I know.
It feels so vulnerable and so sad, and it just feels like, I mean, it is quite literally in the context of battle, like surrendering to peace in a really beautiful, powerful way.
So much beauty in these last few scenes. The next scene, we see the Jagdhut child, the girl, freed because they replace the matron's soul that has been trapped in the Finnist. They replace that, and so they free the girl. And the way Erikson describes how she folds her hands in her lap, which is a gesture she must have learned from her mother. I like that little detail. destroyed me.
Mm.
And then, of course, it gets worse because the Seer, this horrible, the one character we know is pure evil and cannot be redeemed,
Absolutely.
walking toward the little girl, and as soon as she sees him, she puts her arms out. I mean, like, I am a mess at that point.
She doesn't know him. She looking for a brother, sees an uncle,
Yeah,
arms outstretched, and knowing like the hardness and the cruelness that even though it was manipulated by the crippled god is still there, and like the tough life that they're going to have together, this joining of them like two lone souls in this world. Yeah, it's beautiful.
unbelievable.
Being like, and like, I can't believe at the end of the book, I'm like, I'm so glad for the Seer.
I'm
so happy for like, and how quickly that turn. Yeah.
I mean, there is a part of me that was like, it's nice that we can have compassion for the Seer, but those tens of thousands of people following the Seer, murder those folks.
Yeah. Well, no, like, well, they're so fanatical now. We just have to use them for a different religion.
Yeah, well, that's true.
We just have to, they're so easy to manipulate. We can't like give them up. Yeah. We need them as fodder.
So then there's a very interesting scene where Perrin brings everybody into Burns Warren, which is a place that we've seen both Perrin visit and Quickben visit, which is this place where the giants are holding up the ceiling, and Byrne is succumbing to the poison from the crippled god. And there seems to be some resolution to this crisis. The fact that Amtos Falak can be here, can sort of it's cold will counteract the heat of Burn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of creates some balance there.
Yeah, it creates, I think, it counteracts. I basically look at it like a healing salve that you'd put on like a physical burn on your skin, where there's like this poison or like an antidote, but that's not like a perfect match to the antidote, like the poison that you have. So it just slows it down. But that scene, like, so lovely. They're going to a place where nobody's going to find them. They have sort of like Burns' keeper in there also being like, don't be bad.
Yeah, right.
Don't do that. But, Byrne feels at least taken care of for the time being. We've got a little bit more time. And honestly, my brain kind of went to the space where like, hey, if we're able to use this like Amtos Falak and have that at the core near where the crippled god is actually sitting and poisoning Byrne from, maybe now his power will be reduced. He clearly has like fewer pawns that he can play with on the board. So if Perrin accepts him into the deck now, is he at a place of like neutral power compared to all these other gods? Will that be a more balanced experience if he actually, blesses his admission into their pantheon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have lots more to talk about, but I was sort of struck by how much of a resolution this novel seems to give to so many of the plot threads that we've had. It really feels like a trilogy coming to a close. These 3 novels, which I did not expect, knowing that it's a 10 novel, series with other ancillary novels as well. But I didn't expect there to be such closure with this book. So I was surprised, honestly, to see like some of these big. I felt like we were establishing some really big things, and yes, there's still the looming threat of the crippled god. There's lots of stuff still out there to deal with, but I mean, the real closure with the Bridgeburners took me by surprise. The fact that the Bridgeburners are no more. I mean, we're about to get to the scene where Dujek literally says, "You're free. Go. Here's money. I will report all of you dead. You don't have any responsibility to be soldiers anymore. The Bridgeburners are done. Which I was very surprised. I mean, even after Whiskey Jack died, I didn't think we were going to be done with this very important group of people that we spent so much time with.
That's so interesting. I felt like, from my perspective, I did not. I felt like there was, I felt like it's like some of the threat. It felt like a resolution, but I did, in the sense that there was like a satisfying moment for everybody.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just that I know that there's more books. But I mean, the epilogue being there, I don't, or maybe I just don't believe that anybody is ever really dead. I'm like, yeah, okay. So he said that those remaining Bridgeburners were dead, but they're like, but they're not, though, and all of them know they're not, and they're not.
Maybe I'm misreading it, but it really felt like we started our tavern. We're riding off into the sunset, and yes, there's that moment in the epilogue where we see Duker, and we'll get to that. But
tavern going bad. Nobody there except for the Bridgeburners.
You're right.
And Duker.
We can't run a tavern, so we'll have to go back into a soldiering. Maybe you're right.
Elite squad, tactical, not soldier, as much as like wide battle, as much as like a specific mission.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious. It felt like a closure to me, but maybe not. Speaking of people who aren't dead, Talk sees an open vessel, that Master's body, just sitting there. Nobody's using it. Itkovian, expelled all he had was pain. All the pain gone. No, it's a open house.
I do love that. Like, through the book, I'm like, man, everybody losing their eyes.
Yeah.
The wolves are losing their eyes, and Naster's losing his eye. Everybody got one eye, and then like all of those characters are actually connected.
Yeah. So good.
It's so good.
So good.
And it's like so funny to be like.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was like, I remember being like, it's hard to like, they'll like talk about the one-eyed person. I'm like, wait, which one-eyed person am I actually in?
Yeah.
And it just feels very satisfying at the end being like, they were all the same, kind of.
Yeah, totally. And I also love, it's another example, like we were talking about with the Seer, of like, well, a Naster is awful. Is the most foul, disgusting. Oh, it has my friend inside him? Oh, he's good. I hope we get to hang out with him lots more.
I hope he's still funny.
Yeah. Yes. So great. And the shield anvil comes up to talk /Anaster and says, "Hey, are you going to leave your gods? The gods of Tog and Fandaray?" And he's like, "No, heck no. I like those gods. Those guys are sick.
Puppy dogs? I love a puppy
gods.
dog.
Those are the coolest gods ever." And she's like,
I'm kind of a puppy
tricked
dog
you.
myself.
Now you're the mortal sword.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
And something, it wasn't exactly the same, but I do like that Baljag was kind of like, in a way, I guess like the god, but had like a, what's the word? Like shield anvil, sort of like holding their whole people within her. I guess she was more of a realm herself, or how did she carry these souls? Because all the puppy dogs came back to be real puppy dogs again, right? Because she held them. Yeah.
It does seem, well, yeah, it seems like, because she released them and all of the, I think they became, flesh and blood puppy dogs.
Mm-hmm.
That's my reading of it, I think.
Yeah. I like their whole thing.
The Silver Fox is like, "Hey, I realized how easy it was to free the A. All I had to do was like say, you're free. It was super, super simple. Pranchol, happy to do that for all the Talana Moss." Pranchol's like, "Hold your horses.
Yeah.
Chill."
She's like, "Pranchol, you're all..." And he's like,
"You're frozen still. You're still frozen.
You're still freaky bone people."
Yeah. He's like, we got more to do. We got people on a whole other continent that we got to go help. Which, according to the I don't know if you want me to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. According to the little outline that I'm looking at, leads to one of Ian C. Esselmont's novels.
Oh.
Ian C. Esselmont wrote a novel called A Sail, which is literally picks up this story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Like they like hand off to each other like that as authors.
Love it.
Really cool. All right. So this amazing moment. Now we're sort of having the sort of fallout of the war. The battle is over. That we've won. Coral is now Black Coral. We're kind of picking up the pieces, and the Rivi are gathering the dead. And we have this amazing moment where Picker realizes they were the first in and the last out, because they leave on the wagon. The bodies of the Bridgeburners leave on the wagon. Incredibly cool.
Yeah. And Picker said for the last time, which to me says definitely not for the last time.
You believe nothing.
For the last time in this particular novel, in this particular chapter.
Then we have another moment of we've talked about many of these in these novels that are so great, where Lady Envy shows up, goes up to Anomander Rake, and he's like, Anomander, the thing you definitely don't know, I'm going to tell you. He's like, dude, I knew that. I know that. I know that. He's like, no, you don't understand.
She's like, yeah, but what do you know about... Sorry, go ahead.
My dad, Draconis, he wants to break out of your sword land, and he wants to come and he's trying to break out. He's like, yeah, no, yeah, but like Perrin, Perrin can leave and come and go. He's like, yeah, I know. That you mean the guy who is infused with the hounds and has entered my sword and left it before? She's like, but you didn't. You knew?
She's like, I came all this way? I fought, you know how many times I had to put Mott to sleep to get here? Like 4. I loved that. I loved her even just being like, oh, or I forget who's saying something about like, I think they're literally sort of like, disparaging Rake, and he's like, you mean me? And like emerges from the shadows.
Yeah.
like a ghoul. I don't know, like immediately he's like just listening, like waiting for the right entrance the whole time, and like steps out, and then Lady's like, oh, finally. And he's like, I got all that. You're dismissed. Anyway, I got a body to see. And like immediately pieces out. I loved that the end of Lady Envy's journey in this book was not like the message of gravitas, of things you didn't know. It's like not only things that like it feels so much like we get to be smart like Rake, and she's gonna drop this knowledge bomb, and Rake and all of us reading are like, yeah, we know. It's lovely.
Yeah. And it's awesome that Rake, his priority is to pay respects to the fallen whiskey jack, right? And he like, is talks to Picker, talks to the rest of the Bridgeburners as equals. It's such a cool moment.
Yeah. The one last thing I'll call about Lady Envy's like conversation with Rake is she's like, Daddy wants to break out of the sword. And Rake's like, yeah. And she's like, he's going to be pretty mad. And he's like, that's fine. And he's like, what do you know about it? You didn't even help. And she's like, exactly. How do you think he felt about that? And so even like her delivering this message of like gravitas is just to cover her own hide.
Yeah.
So
totally.
When Draconis eventually busts out of that thing, I imagine him being like, yeah, whatever. You had the sword. I built the sword. I get it. It's a bad place. Why didn't you help me? I could just imagine this scene in the future of all the rage that is built up in there from a life of dragging a chain wagon.
Totally.
Coming at Envy later.
Then we have an interesting moment where Dujek shows up and he checks out Whiskey Jack's body, and he's like, hey, his legs all busted. Did that happen before or after? And Corlat lies. And I wonder what your interpretation of that was. Like, why do you think she lies about because Dujak's like, well, that means he wasn't as good in battle. And I know he's awesome in battle. So like, why do you think she lies about the reason that he fell?
I thought a lot about this. I can't tell. I honestly couldn't tell if it was that, I mean, when Mallet shows up and like sees like he could have, like if he just healed him,
Yeah.
this wouldn't be the case. So I don't know if she's saying it knowing that anybody who had the opportunity to help this man, like to save their sanity and maybe including her own, like did she have the opportunity to help him? Is she like is she in denial to protect her own heart, her own self? Or did she think that would make him seem more noble? I honestly couldn't tell. It seems like a definitely like a very curious mystery to me.
Yeah.
But I can't tell if she's actually being deceitful intentionally or if she's like in shock because she got hit in the head with a sword like right before that.
Yeah, that's why I honestly had a hard time understanding it as well, because I felt like it seemed to be this gesture of protection where she was trying to protect the memory of Whiskey Jack in some way, but the end result seemed to reflect poorly on him. But he, it wasn't that this leg gave out. It was that,
He wasn't a good
if the
fighter.
leg gives out, he could have still won the fight, but for the leg. If the leg doesn't give out, he just lost the fight, right? It seems like that reflects worse on him than the leg giving out. But I do think what you're saying might have more credibility in that it was more about protecting the other people who felt like they could have been responsible by not forcing him to get it healed. Like she was just trying to protect everybody else's feelings of, we could have saved Whiskey Jack if we had insisted he do it instead of just suggesting he do it.
Yeah.
I
wonder if they will then later insist that Perrin get healed for good. I wonder if this is like a lesson learned. But I think that like in the past, I feel like these characters would have been like called out. I feel like we would have seen Dujak's inner monologue be like, look at her protecting us or something like that. But the fact that he's like, that's sus, lady, is like the thing that makes me stay suspicious of it as a mystery.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know.
It's an odd moment that I'm not quite unlocked yet, but then we have maybe my favorite scene in the whole novel, which is the funeral of Itkovian, where Itkovian is being put in this very plain box to be buried, and the soldier that we had that tiny little scene where Itkovian trades his helm with this soldier. That was just a total throwaway scene. Didn't expect to come back or mean anything in any way. And here it is, of course, making me cry because it comes back and says, hey, I got to give the helm back. And they're like, no, Itkovian wouldn't have wanted that. It wouldn't have wanted you to have the better helm.
They're like, if you think that your helmet actually is better, you can take it off his body. And he's like, good, no. I'm trying to honor him right now.
Yeah. And then this just exquisite emotional outpouring of gifts as each of the people that were affected by Itkovian walks up and places some additional gift, small, tiny little token, and the accumulation of those things creates the Barrow for Itkovian. Like, I don't even know how to. It's just so beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and the way they describe those gifts as like, as anything that they could give, a smooth pebble, daggers, and then finally, of course, the Telenamos opening this avenue for that soldier to gift that helm back to him and let that be a part of his final resting place.
Yeah.
The visual of it, and just, he he gave literally everything for everyone to the very end, and then giving anything, trying to make any mark in what you would feel you owed that individual.
Yeah.
It really,
it speaks so much to me about the purpose of living, right? It is a metaphor. It is poetic in its expression of what we can do in our lives, what matters, giving to others, right? The Itkovian does the most selfless thing imaginable, a thing that the Talan Imass themselves do not understand. Why are you doing this for us? Why are you doing this for us? We are nothing to you. Why would you do this incredible thing? And it to me, like it is the meaning of life, to put it in grandiose terms, right? Is affect others, be of benefit, be of use, help other people, and to see that,
to know personal gain, like just selflessness.
Right. Well, but in a way, I don't even think it isn't of personal, like it is selfless, but it is, but like Itkovian found meaning in that, right? Found purpose in that.
Yeah.
And I did not get the sense that Itkovian was sacrificing himself. He was doing what he was meant to do, right? He was achieving the highest thing he could possibly achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And such beauty in that, and such a lesson to be learned in life. It doesn't have to be, accepting the pain of countless, an entire, race of beings. It just those small things that we can all do to be of service, and how powerfully that is expressed in a fantasy novel. Like, I don't know how to. I get emotional. It's like it means something, right? It means something. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I also like the fact that Gruntle takes the talks. These very or not. What are they? Torques.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, sorry, Treach. You're just gonna have to deal with loss. We do.
Yeah.
The way mortals in these books are teaching the gods, it's so cool. I've never seen that kind of thing done like this, where the gods are uber powerful, but the mortals are constantly as important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it's not true that I've never seen it, right? That's kind of the Greek gods were always being taught lessons by the mortals, but it's just very deftly done here.
I agree. I feel like I'm emotionally distancing myself from this conversation because no, don't apologize. I definitely last night was like on the couch, just like bawling my eyes out. That the mortals are and like everybody in this, of like all species, are so, we've talked a lot about compassion through the books, and like the power that has, and that just being this common thread. And in this moment, after like the darkest thing, like the person who had the most compassion for everyone, then getting the compassion turned back on them, and just the power of people coming together and honoring each other and caring for each other, feeling so like how powerful that can be in this fantasy world, and just so deeply wanting that for the real one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and there are people who say that fantasy isn't literature.
I know.
Suck it. You know? We have this really fascinating moment too, where Perrin and Quitben teleport onto Moonspawn, which feels so transgressive in that moment of like, oh, we're gonna get to see inside of Moonspawn for the first time, and like they're gonna see inside it for the first time, and it just
And the last time, maybe.
yeah.
But
and you're not supposed to be there, guys. What if he finds out?
It feels so mischievous.
Yeah.
Where, especially because Quickman's like, I gotta go to Moosebone. Like, I have to see Whiskey Jack. We gotta go.
Yeah.
And Perrin's like, how?
Yeah.
And he's like, draw a card. And they're like, ooh. It just feels like they're like doing mischief. And Perrin constantly being like, Quickman being like, do magic. And he's like, tell me.
I love that like Perrin's superpower is drawing, and he's like, I'm just not good at that. I'm not an artist. I can't draw. She's like, draw Moonspawn. He's like, squiggle. Is that Moonspawn?
And he's like, art is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. Let's go, baby.
It's good enough. We got this. And then the moment where he's like, okay, think about Moonspawn, but don't think about the outside of it, because we'll just teleport to the outside and fall to our deaths into the sea. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
So great. But yeah, it was so awesome. They go in there and they see that Animator Rake had like set aside these sarcophagus and sarcophagi, I guess would be. And that he like did the magic personally and like,
and basically trapped everything. So if like somebody's like, hey, time to do looting,
yeah,
bad things be happening to them.
So good. And this moment where Quickben like names all of the soldiers that died by, it's very powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. But also he leaves a pebble, a way to get back in case Callum wants to go. Kalam. I never do that one right. And there's some kind of, I think, ominous foreshadowing to something, because it says something about like a dance of mystery about this magic that's all around it. So I think something's going to come back about that.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that the pebble's there, I'm like, we're not done with Moonspawn.
Yeah. Totes.
Zambi Jack.
Then we have a fun little moment with Corball Brooch and Beauchalon, who find out that the Mott irregulars are after them, and they're like, "Oh, how shall we receive them? What is the proper attire and etiquette?" Very funny. And then another one of my favorite bro moments where Gruntle meets Anaster / Talk, and they're like, "Are you a mortal sword? Yeah. Are you a mortal sword? Yeah. Do you know what that means? Nope."
And they're like, "Want to get drunk?" Yeah. They're like, "Yes."
I love it.
I love that. Another great bromance, if you will. One of many, and I hope one of many more to come.
Well, it felt too like we had seen the death of some bros, right? Mm-hmm. Whiskey Jack dying out, the broing with Whiskey Jack and Animator Rake, the broing with Whiskey Jack and Dujek. So we replace it with new bros. We got new bros, fresh bros. Yeah.
Memories of Ice, subheading the death of a bromance. I loved it. I also loved how they teed it up where it's like they kind of like sussing each other out, but like very simply, where it's like just like the way they're kind of like there's like a suspicious edge, and then immediately they're like, I like him.
Yeah, good, so good. Yeah, he's like, oh, he's my rival. But wait, what? Are you cool, bro? You're cool. All right, bro.
Best friends.
Yeah, very fun. And I love how they both have no idea what their new role means. They're like, no idea what the mortal sword is. No clue. Yeah. Very funny. All right. There's some more wrapping up with Baruch. Says there's a man in his care, and I was like, who's that? I don't know why I didn't come to it. I'm really, really cool who it ends up being, but I was like, who could that be? And this is where Dujek is like, I'm free you all. I give you money. Do whatever you want. The trade guild will take you back. Perrin, you're free to go. Everybody's cool. And then we see Tool, not as an undead bone bro, but as a sexy, dark-haired,
flesh and bones,
flesh and blood, baby.
Yeah.
And he walks up to Talk and Aster and says, just want to make sure you're okay. And Talk's like, I feel like I know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome moment. Calls him brother again.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, lots of like little hopeful, interesting threads right at the very end. Very exciting.
Yes. And he walks off with his sister and she's like, do you need a new sword? He's like, yeah, could you make me one? She's like, sure. Like I did thousands of years ago. And we back with Lady Envy and Mock. Mock wakes up. He's like, I got to go fight Animator Rake. She's like, no, you're not. Stop it.
No, he said, I got to go find Animator Rake. Because I think he's like, wait, Rake's here? Because they came partially to be like, you got to take your mask, bro.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, because he's the 7th. I got to give him his mask. Yeah, he earned that mask.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, no, stop. We're leaving. And then the funniest way for a novel to end. After all this powerful emotion, all of this, me weeping as I'm reading this beautiful, exquisite. Then we have newly hot Tool walks up to Hetton and her family.
Oh my God.
And she's like, damn, you fine.
You look like, I see a lot in you, but what I see mostly is that it's been a few thousand years. And he's like, yeah, baby.
I see a lot in you, but more importantly, I see a you in me.
Yes. Oh my God. Beautiful end to the book.
Like,
my
let's
girl,
get it on.
Get it.
Yeah.
Woo!
And then epilogue, right? Epilogue. Perrin's like, I'm gonna move in. I'm moving in to the Finnest house. I'm moving in. Raced.
Raced very dry, annoyed. Raced suddenly like the dry butler with attitude. He's like, I see your housekeeping is not great. And he's like, what do you want me to do with these bodies? And I was like, oh yeah, they're still there.
It's Ralik Nam, right? He's just still passed out. He's like been passed out for 2 novels. Yeah. Very funny. So that's where Perrin's gonna live. Sees a beggar who like, what's that about?
Well, he's trying to scam him.
Yeah. And then we move over to the tavern, which is called Cruel's Tavern, Cruel's Bar that Picker started, not doing great. But then we see who the person that Baruch wanted the Bridgeburners to take care of. It's our boy Duiker.
Woo!
Still clutching the name of his lady friend in his hand and not saying anything. And then he's like, eventually says, hey, I'll tell you a story. I tell you a story about a man named Coltane.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And then you could just read books 2 and 3 back to back in a loop.
Yeah, just back to back. Which is why it felt to me like, it felt like a real trilogy to me. It felt like these 3 novels kind of stand together as one. If there was never any more books, I would feel,
satisfied.
Not, obviously there's open threads, the crippled god is still out there, but this would feel pretty satisfying as just a trilogy,
Yeah. I feel like, I think a lot about like, if I was reading this as they were being released,
yeah,
how that would feel and like the excitement of I feel of like what could possibly be. I don't know if there was like, announcements whenever these came out that being like, there's definitely a book 4, or if you were just like, I wonder what happened to those people, and just hoping for, what's next.
Yeah.
Overall, I agree with you. It felt like a very contained experience.
I'm just impressed by, I think each of these novels so far have really felt like they've had an ending, which, to be fair, with a lot of fantasy series, that's not always the case. You have that like Empire Strikes Back, installment where it's like, okay, we're leaving on the cliffhanger, or we're leaving on the big, nothing is resolved. I gotta wait for the next one. Instead of each of these really does feel like, I thought the Panny and Seer, the Panny and Domin was going to be a multi-novel problem we were going to have to deal with. It really does feel like these are very satisfying experiences that have A, B, and C, that beginning, middle, and end.
Well, I will say, like, thinking back to the first novel, if in my recollection, the first novel had definitely felt like needed the second novels to be like, there's more here. The first novel's ending, I remember being like expecting there to be like, wow, big finish, fireworks. And it was like, some stuff happened. And then I guess it's over, like expecting big tyrant battle, and there wasn't.
Right.
I like that that's like the primer for like sort of, we talked a lot about Erikson subverting your expectations.
Right.
And like, I think teeing us up to enjoy the second and third novels even more than we might have if it was all the same.
That leads me to my next question, which is, we've read 3 of these. How do you rank them? Now that we have enough to rank.
2, 3, 1.
That's me too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because I think most people do 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
I think I like Deadhouse Gates just the slightest bit more.
Yes. I think it had like more consistent energy. I think overall, like these last couple chapters, and like I could see it in like the YouTube comments of people being like, I can't wait till you get to the end of this book.
Yeah.
And so thinking about the books like holistically, I think they were like more consistent spikes of interest versus I felt like this one was very lore, very dense lore packed beginning where I was like really flexing my brain to hold it all so that all the payoffs would be as impactful as they were. And like even trying to like hold on to information for like the next chapters, like you best believe Itkovian's getting, hit with all the memories, and any memory that was like, and very specific name that I will say several times. I was like, keep that one in the bank for later. Like it felt like there's a lot more moments where I'm trying to bank things. And then the end of it was like, whee, like amazing. I can't believe it felt like we flew through those last chapters.
I loved Memories of Ice. I think honestly, the Felicin, there's like Felicin's channel and Duiker's channel. It feels to me lots of other stuff in Deadhouse Gates, but it feels like there's 2 parallel tracks, and both of those feel like freight trains to me. In Deadhouse Gates, and there's such a clarity to what we're doing in both of those that felt so fun. And, Memories of Ice has so much more going on, I think. And it's on a level that's sort of grander and more dealing with gods. And there's obviously lots of god stuff in the second novel too, but it just feels like everything here is about elevating people and the pantheon and who's in and who's out and all that stuff. And it didn't feel as freight train to me.
Yeah, and it almost, increased my enjoyment of the previous book, because there's like moments where I'm learning more stuff about the last one, and I guess even part of me like attributes it to how awesome the last book was, even though it's like being paid off.
Right.
In this one, that it's like, I think my order is 2, 3, 1, but I agree with you in that it's like 2 and 3. They're like right,
so close,
they're right there. They're
so
right
close,
there.
So close. But man, incredible books, and so much fun reading along with you. It's awesome to get to the end. We have our we have our quotes, so we should get to
Uh-huh.
those because we're already real long. I have several.
I have several too. And I've one that I'm positive that we both have that I
I'm
want
sure that's
that
true.
I'm gonna let you read. Um uh uh Here's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Of Corlat after Whiskey Jack has fallen and flying in dragon form with her brother. And her brother's like, girl, you gotta get out of here. And she's like, no, I gotta protect you. And Orfantal says, the enemy is destroyed, Corlat. What you would guard staying with me is the heart within you. You would fend it from pain, from loss. Sister, he deserves more. Go down now. To grieve is the gift of the living, a gift so many of our kin have long lost.
Beautiful. And so much of what this book is about, I think, is grieving, is the difference between being a mortal person and being this concept of what immortal is, and how being immortal might be worse. Like that.
Yeah.
And I think, I would love, hopefully we'll be able to talk to Mr. Erikson again, because I wonder how much of this, these memories of ice, these, and so much of what happens at the end is letting the memories seep into the land and being
Mm-hmm.
there. And it seems very clear to me that is at least informed by his experience in anthropology and archaeology, and, looking at the land and seeing the memories that stay there, that
Mm-hmm.
as we humans have discovered ancient civilizations, we find those memories embedded in the land, and so him taking that into a metaphorical place and having that be sort of a need that people to let things settle and relinquish that stuff.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, and it really speaks to what we as beings who live and die and experience pain and loss of other beings living and dying, what we need to have. Like we need to grieve, and that grief is a beautiful thing. It is a gift that the mortals
Mm-hmm.
give, the living give to the.
Well, I love that you even said that. Like the last bit of that blurb that I didn't include because like the grieving is the important part. But Erikson even identifies that as the mortal thing. Then the next sentence is, "Do not retreat. Descend, Corlat, to the mortal realm." So
Yeah.
even right in this, like immediately identifying that grief and as like a mortal piece.
Yeah.
I love all of your
Well, where
commentary there.
I mean, it so much of fantastical storytelling over time, from vampires to the Fountain of Youth to whatever, has had some sort of thing about in eternal life being an aspirational thing, that like living forever would be something to desire. And that, in this telling, it really is a horrible thing to experience, right? What we
Mm-hmm.
need to have is to lay these memories to rest and to let another generation come and experience them in their own way. It's beautiful. I have one. I'm no surprise. I'm going to say this one. I already talked about how much it meant to me. This is Itkovian saying, "Your pardon, sirs. You wish to know of me. I am a mortal, as you say, a man, born 3 decades ago in the city of Erin. My father was a hard, just man. My mother smiled but once in all the years I knew her. The moment when I departed. Still, it is the smile I remember. I think now that my father embraced in order to possess, that she was a prisoner. I think now that her smile answered my escape. I think now that in my leaving, I took something of her with me, something worthy of being set free."
Yeah.
It's moving. It's moving. Do you have another one?
I do. I'm sorry. I'm like speechless. I don't know what to even comment on.
Yeah.
I have another one. I had two more that I wanted to touch on. One being the one that I assume that we both have.
Yeah, I think we both do.
Yeah. And this one, because it was a moment at the end of the book that I do feel like, you know, this is one of the characters that is, you know, me as the reader looking at what's happening and, you know, takeaways from the end of this book. In the gate's gloom, Kaladin Brood stared out across the stone bridge over the mangled plain to where Corlett stood halfway to the hill, surrounded by corpses and shattered Kachin Shamali. He watched as her head tilted back, face slowly lifting to the gray shroud of the rain. The black mountain, fissures widening, groans issuing from the dying edifice seemed to pause directly over her. A heart, once of stone, made mortal once more. This image, what he now saw, he knew with bleak certainty, would never leave him.
Yeah. And it's an image that probably won't leave me either.
Yeah, that's like, I'm like, yeah, same, bro.
Here's the one that I suspect we both pulled, and I'm sure anybody reading these novels would pull, and I think justifiably so, and that means we should definitely highlight it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the treatise on compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Sirs, you speak of compassion. I understand something now of compassion. Would you hear? Speak on, mortal. We humans do not understand compassion. In each moment of our lives, we betray it. Aye, we know its worth, yet in knowing, we then attach to it a value. We guard the giving of it, believing it must be earned, to Lana Moss. Compassion is priceless. In the truest sense of the word, it must be given freely, in abundance.
That's the one that got me.
Truer words never spoken.
Yeah.
Would
very
that
resonant.
we all believed that and understood that. Especially, I hate to bring in the real world to this, but
yeah,
I spent too much time last night looking at what happened in Maine,
Mm-hmm.
And having just finished the novel and then seeing that happening in Maine and the lesson of compassion being so woefully ignored by our culture. It is.
Yeah. A lot of tragedy.
Yeah. I have one more quote just to end on a more fun note. This is I think just a fun piece of prose. This is describing Talk's watching of Tool and Mock fight. Blurred motion, two warriors closing too fast for Talk's lone eye to follow. Iron sang with stone, sparks shooting through the gloom to light the broken instruments of torture surrounding them in racing flashes of revelation. Shadows dancing in the wood and metal tangle. And to Talk, it was as if all the accumulated pain that these mechanisms had absorbed in their lifetimes was suddenly freed by the sparks, by the two warriors, and all that sheathed their hidden souls.
Yeah, baby.
Woo! The fight, you can just see it. The fight happening in this room with all these torture devices around it, and it's like this beautiful coming together. Thank you, Mr.
Awesome.
Erikson, for these
Thank you.
works, man. Obviously, affecting us and so many of the folks that have been reading along with us and have already experienced these books that are so generous with their information and their recommendations to us, because one of the biggest thank yous I want to give to the audience, and this is not a small thing. Thank you for not spoiling anything for us. Like,
yes,
the fact that we have interacted with so many folks that have already been through all 10 of these books and more, and that people care so much about preserving the experience. And I didn't know any of the surprises that were coming, and nobody spoiled anything in our Discord or in our comments. We are grateful for that. Thank you. It's a fragile thing. So thank you for honoring that. Lana and I haven't talked yet about what our schedule is to start the next novel, but we will be moving on to House of Chains. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, we did see, I think we mentioned it last week, somebody in the DLC Discord already posted, the community sourced chapter groupings for us. We'll have to take a look at that. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if we haven't talked about whether we're going to take a week off between novels or if we're going to jump right in, but stay tuned, stay subscribed to the channel, and we will be back very soon. And hopefully we will be reaching out to Mr. Erikson again, and hopefully get him on to talk a little bit more with us. It's such a delight to speak to him. So thank you again. dlcfeedback@gmail.com if you want to give any of your feedback about what we've been talking about, or any suggestions for topics coming forward. But thanks for being with us through Memories of Ice. And I guess there's only one thing left to do. It's dance.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, a sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with the